The silent world, the archival chamber of the Galactic Council, hummed with the soft blue light of 1,000 preserved memories. Ambassador Velrith of the Tarkonian Collective stood before the crystalline display, her 6 eyes scanning the familiar red warning symbol that had hung over. Sol to 3 for 347 standard cycles. Quarantine Zone Omega-7. Species status: extinct cause, self-inflicted. Nuclear biological warfare recommendation. Planetary exclusion for 10,000 cycles. Radiation decay period. Such a waste, Velrith whispered, her translator rendering the clicks and whistles of her native tongue into galactic standard. She had been young when Earth fell silent barely through her first molting. Now, in her 3rd century of life, she served as the Council's chief archivist. The story of humanity had always haunted her. The humans had been so promising. Loud, aggressive, passionate, yes, but also innovative and surprisingly adaptive. They had achieved faster-than-light communication within mere decades of joining the galactic community. Their scientists had collaborated on the Kepler station. Their artists had contributed to the grand cultural archives. And their diplomats, though often frustrating, had shown genuine interest in peaceful coexistence. And then, silence. The last transmission from Earth had been chaos-overlapping distress signals, nuclear detonation warnings, a desperate plea for help that cut off mid-sentence. The Council had deliberated for months before finally sending a reconnaissance probe. What it found confirmed their worst fears: a world shrouded in ash, radiation spikes across all major population centers, and not a single electromagnetic signal suggesting organized civilization. Earth was declared lost. The quarantine zone was established. The galaxy moved on. Velrith was about to close the archive when her personal communicator chimed a priority alert from the Council chamber itself. Her eyes widened as she read the message. Commander, Vex of the Krev Empire had submitted a formal petition to the Council, a request to lift the quarantine on Sol 3 and grant the Krev colonization rights. By the ancestors, Velrith breathed. They wouldn't dare. But she knew they would. The Krev always dared. Halfway across the galactic sector, Commander Vex stood on the bridge of the warship Dominion's fist, his scaled hands clasped behind his broad back. The Krev were reptilian in appearance, tall, muscular, with emerald scales that could deflect small arms fire. They had built an empire through strength and strategic expansion, claiming 17 systems in the past 2 centuries alone. But they needed more. Status report, Vex commanded, his voice a low rumble that made junior officers straighten at their stations. We are approaching the boundary of Quarantine Zone Omega-7. Commander, his navigation officer replied. 3 hours until we reach Sol System. Vex allowed himself a thin smile. The Galactic Council had been predictable in their response to his petition. They had debated, argued, and ultimately delayed their decision, which meant they had not explicitly forbidden him from proceeding. And what the Council didn't explicitly forbid, the Krev considered permitted. Earth's location is strategically critical, Vex said, addressing his senior staff. The Orion arm has long been underutilized due to the quarantine. Once we establish a Krev colony on Sol 3, we will control the primary trade routes through this entire sector. Our empire will double in economic power within a generation. Commander, his science officer, a younger Krev named Shen, spoke hesitantly. The radiation levels are 3 centuries old, Vex interrupted. Our ship's sensors detected significant atmospheric changes 5 cycles ago. The planet is regenerating. Nature is reclaiming what the humans destroyed. By the time we establish biodomes and terraform the worst regions, Sol 3 will be the jewel of Krev space. Shen said nothing more, but Vex caught the uncertainty in his subordinates' eyes. Good. A little fear kept soldiers sharp. Truth was that Thex had more than strategic interest in Earth. He had studied the extinct humans extensively, their weapons, their tactics, their capacity for both creation and destruction. The Krev respected strength above all else, and humanity had shown strength even in self-annihilation. Claiming their world would be a symbolic victory, proof that the Krev were the rightful heirs to any power vacuum in the galaxy. Drop out of hyperspace at the system's edge, Thex ordered. I want full spectrum scans before we approach the planet. If there are any surprises waiting, I want to know about them. The Dominion's fist shuddered as it transitioned from faster-than-light travel back into normal space. Stars resolved into fixed points of light around them. And there ahead burned a yellow G-type star sol, the sun that had once warmed a thriving human civilization. "Scanning now, Commander," Shen reported, his claws dancing across his console. "Sol 3 is ... unexpected." Thex moved to stand behind the science officer. "Elaborate." "The atmospheric composition has normalized. Oxygen-nitrogen balance consistent with pre-war records. But..." Shen pulled up a visual display of Earth. The planet hung in space, brilliant blue and white, covered in swirling clouds. There should be ash clouds, nuclear winter effects. Instead, the planet looks ... healthy. More than healthy. Forest coverage has increased 47%. Ocean temperatures are optimal. It's as if the war never happened. 347 years is a long time, Thex said, though even he felt a flicker of unease. Planetary ecosystems are resilient. Yes, but Commander, there's more. Shen highlighted several regions on the surface. I'm detecting unusual energy signatures. They're faint, but they're there concentrated around the former human cities. The pattern is too regular to be natural geological activity. Thex studied the display. The signatures were indeed peculiar, but they were weak. Remnants of human technology, perhaps finally decaying after centuries. Nothing to concern a Krev battle fleet. Any signs of intelligent life? Structures? Communications? None, Commander. No radio signals. No heat signatures indicating cities or populations. Whatever those energy readings are, they're not active civilizations. Thex straightened. Then we proceed. Helm, take us into orbit. Prepare the landing forces. The fleet of 7 Krev warships moved deeper into the Sol system. Passing the orbit of Mars, the red planet stood lifeless and cold, then entering the space around Earth itself. Thex couldn't help but feel a sense of conquest as the blue world grew larger in the view screen. Orbit achieved, the helm officer reported. Stable position over the former continent designated North America. Launch reconnaissance drones, Thex commanded. I want eyes on the surface before we commit ground forces. A dozen small drones separated from the Dominion's fist, streaking down through Earth's atmosphere. Their cameras fed real-time data back to the bridge. Thex watched as they descended through clouds, revealing a world transformed. Where cities had once stood, forests now reigned. Massive trees hundreds of feet tall had broken through ancient streets. Rivers ran clear through what had been industrial centers. Wildlife, or something like it, moved through the undergrowth. Earth had become a garden, wild and untamed. Remarkable, Shen murmured. The planet's recovery rate is unprecedented. One drone focused on a partially exposed structure, the remnant of a human building, its steel frame wrapped in vines. Strange metallic objects lay half buried in the soil nearby, their purpose unclear. They appeared too regular to be natural, but too corroded to identify. Then something happened that made every officer on the bridge freeze. The communication console erupted with sound of transmission. Tight beam, directly to the Dominion's fist. A voice spoke in perfect galactic standard. Calm and clear. Leave. This is your only warning. The transmission ended as abruptly as it had begun. Vex felt his scales ripple an involuntary response to threat that he hadn't experienced in years. Around him, his crew exchanged uncertain glances. "Trace that signal," Vex barked, forcing authority back into his voice. "Where did it originate?" Shen's claws moved frantically across his console. "Commander, it came from everywhere. The entire planet. Every surface region simultaneously. That's impossible. No known technology can generate a synchronized transmission of that magnitude without massive infrastructure. Could it be automated?" Vex demanded. "Some defense system the humans left behind?" "Perhaps, but the message was responsive, not pre-recorded. Someone knew we were here. Someone is watching us right now." Vex stared at the planet below, his mind racing. The Council's records were clear. Earth was dead. 3 centuries of silence proved it. This had to be a remnant system, something automated, protecting a world that no longer had any inhabitants to defend. He would not be frightened away by ghosts. "Ignore it," Vex said firmly. "It's a bluff old human programming trying to scare us away. Prepare the landing force. 3 companies, full combat gear. We'll establish a beachhead in the former city designated New York. If there are any functional systems left, we'll shut them down. Commander, perhaps we should report this to the Council and give them an excuse to claim Earth for themselves?" X's eyes narrowed. "No, we proceed. Ready the troops." Within the hour, 3 Krev transport ships detached from the fleet, carrying 300 soldiers toward Earth's surface. Vex watched from the bridge as they descended, powerful warriors of the Empire, ready to claim a dead world for the living. The transports disappeared into the clouds. Vex waited dot, and in the forests below, in the deep places beneath the soil, in the vast networks that spanned the entire planet, humanity watched the Krev come and began to wake. Asterisk. The awakening the Krev transports descended through Earth's atmosphere with the confidence of apex predators entering uncontested territory. Inside the lead ship, Captain Vork checked his weapon for the 3rd time, a plasma rifle, capable of melting through reinforced steel. Around him, his soldiers sat in disciplined silence, their armor gleaming under the red combat lighting. 2 minutes to landing zone, the pilot announced. Targeting the ruins of the former human settlement designated New York. Terrain appears stable, heavy forest coverage. Vork grunted acknowledgement. He had fought in 7 colonization campaigns across 4 systems. This would be no different. Secure the perimeter, establish a base, eliminate any threats. The fact that the threat here was likely nothing more than malfunctioning. Machinery made the mission almost disappointingly simple. The transport shuddered as it touched. Down in what had once been a massive urban center, the rear hatch hissed open, and Vork led his squad out into Earth's air. The first thing that struck him was how alive everything was. Trees towered overhead, their canopies so thick they blocked out much of the sunlight. The air smelled of growth and soil-rich, fertile, nothing like the dead world he'd expected. Vines covered every surface, and beneath his boots, soft moss cushioned his steps. In the distance, he could hear the calls of creatures he couldn't identify. "Spread out," Vork commanded. "Standard perimeter. Watch for structural instabilities." His soldiers moved with practiced efficiency, their weapons raised as they navigated through the forest that had consumed the city. Here and there, Vork spotted remnants of humanity, a corroded vehicle half swallowed by roots, a section of concrete wall emerging from the earth like a gravestone, the skeletal remains of what might have been a bridge. "Captain," one of his soldiers called out, "you should see this." Vork approached the soldier, who had stopped beside a partially exposed metallic structure. It was unlike anything in the Krev database's smooth, seamless construction with no visible welds or joints. Strange patterns were etched into its surface, and despite centuries of exposure, it showed no signs of rust or decay. Human construction? Vork wondered aloud. If so, it's beyond anything they were known to possess, the soldier replied. The material composition is. He never finished the sentence. The soldier simply vanished. One moment he was standing there, the next nothing. No sound, no flash of light, no indication of what had happened. Just absence where a living being had been. Vork spun, weapon raised, his heart's pounding in his chest. Defensive positions now. His remaining soldiers formed a circle, backs together, scanning the forest. Nothing moved. The bird calls had stopped. An unnatural silence had fallen over the forest. All units, report, Vork spoke into his communicator, contacting the other two landing parties. We have hostile contact, Static answered him. Vork switched frequencies, tried again. More static. His squad's communications network was being jammed. But there had been no electromagnetic pulse. No indication of interference technology. Captain, another soldier whispered. His voice tight with fear. Vork had never heard from a Krev warrior. The trees. Vork looked up. The trees were moving. Not swaying in wind. There was no wind. They were shifting, their positions changing subtly, closing in. And between them, barely visible against the bark and foliage, were shapes. Humanoid shapes, but wrong somehow, as if they were part of the forest itself. Open fire. Vork roared. Plasma bolts lit up the forest, tearing through vegetation and vaporizing wood. But the shapes didn't fall. They flickered, phased, and reappeared elsewhere, holographic projections. Vork realized with horror. They weren't shooting at enemies. They were shooting at ghosts. Another soldier disappeared. Then another. Retreat to the transport. Vork ordered, abandoning all pretense of military discipline. His remaining squad ran through the forest. Their training forgotten in the face of an enemy they couldn't see, couldn't fight, couldn't understand. Vork reached the transport first, slamming his fist against the entry panel. The hatch didn't respond. He tried again and looked up at the cockpit windows. The pilots were gone. The transport was empty. No, Vork spun, pressing his back against the transport's hull. His squad of 30 soldiers had been reduced to 5 in a matter of minutes. The others simply erased. The forest had gone completely silent. Then, from everywhere and nowhere, a voice spoke, the same voice from the transmission. But now Vork could hear something else beneath the galactic standard. Layered whispers. Thousands of them. Speaking in perfect unison. You were warned. The ground beneath Vork's feet began to vibrate. Panels of earth slid aside with whisper-quiet precision, revealing shafts of pale blue light. From these shafts rose platforms, and on these platforms stood figures. Humans. But not the humans from the galactic records. These were different, taller, leaner, their movements fluid and precise. They wore seamless suits that seemed to shift colors to match their surroundings, and their eyes. Their eyes glowed with a soft internal light that suggested technology far beyond anything Vork had encountered. Impossible, Vork breathed. You're extinct. You're dead. One of the humans stepped forward, a woman with dark skin and silver hair. Her expression neither hostile nor welcoming, simply ... observant. We were never dead. Commander Vork, she said, her voice the same layered whisper chorus from the transmission. We were transforming. How do you know my name? How do you... We know everything about your fleet, another human said. A man emerging from the forest itself, his form solidifying from what Vork had thought was a tree trunk. Your commander. Your mission. Your weapons. Your intentions. We have been listening to your communications since you entered our system. Vork raised his weapon, though his hands trembled. The Krev Empire will not tolerate. The Krev Empire is 3 sectors away, the woman interrupted calmly. Your fleet is in our orbit. Your soldiers are in our forests. And you are standing on our world. Perhaps you should reconsider who will tolerate whom. Above them, the sky suddenly darkened. Vork looked up to see something impossible, a shimmer in the atmosphere, like ripples across water, spreading across the entire visible sky. And through this shimmer, he saw them, structures. Massive, intricate structures floating in the upper atmosphere, invisible until this moment. Earth had a defensive network that spanned the entire planet, hidden from all sensors, waiting. What? What are you? Vork whispered. We are what humanity became when the galaxy abandoned us, the woman replied. When our world burned, we had a choice: die on the surface, or adapt. We went deep, Commander. Deeper than you can imagine. We built cities beneath the earth, powered by geothermal energy and technologies we developed in our isolation. We merged with our machines, enhanced our biology, expanded our consciousness. For 347 years, we have been evolving. The Council said what they needed to believe, another human said, stepping forward. This one was elderly, his face lined with age, but his eyes bright with intelligence. They needed to believe we destroyed ourselves, because the alternative was too frightening. A species capable of building interstellar communications in decades? Who fought wars with weapons that could crack continents? We were dangerous, unpredictable. Our silence was convenient. The woman held out her hand, and a holographic display materialized above her palm. Vork saw his fleet in orbit, each ship highlighted. Their weapon systems, power cores, and crew complements all labeled with perfect accuracy. Your ships are currently experiencing what you would call a complete systems shutdown, she said matter-of-factly. We're not jamming your communications, we've rewritten them. Every electronic system in your fleet is now part of Earth's network. Your weapons won't fire. Your engines won't respond. Your life support will continue functioning because we choose to let it. This is an act of war, Vork managed, though the words sounded hollow even to him. No, Commander, the elderly human said, with something that might have been sadness. This is an act of defense. You came to claim a world you believed was dead. You came to colonize a planet without asking if anyone still called it home. What you call war, we call self-preservation. Your Commander Vex is currently receiving a similar message aboard his flagship, the woman continued. We are offering the Krev Empire a choice. Leave our system peacefully and carry a message to the Galactic Council, or we will escort your ships out of our space. We prefer the former. We are not our ancestors. We do not seek conflict. But make no mistake, we will defend ourselves. Vork's weapon dropped from his hands. He looked at his remaining soldiers. They were surrounded by dozens of humans now, all having emerged from the forest as if they had been part of it all along. Perhaps they had been. Perhaps the entire planet was watching them. Asterisk. What happened to my other soldiers? Vork asked quietly. They are unharmed and unconscious, being held in what you would call stasis, the woman replied. They will be returned to your ships along with you. We do not kill unless we have no alternative. That, too, is different from our ancestors. Aboard the Dominion's Fist, Commander Vex stood frozen before his view screen, his scales pale with shock. The entire bridge crew was silent, staring at the holographic figure that had appeared before them, a human man in robes that seemed woven from light itself. His projection so detailed that Vex could see individual threads in the fabric. I am Keeper Yaman, speaker for the stewards of Earth, the figure said. You entered our system without permission. You planned to colonize our world without inquiry. You assumed we were gone. You were wrong. This is impossible, Vex stammered. The radiation, the silence, was intentional, Yaman replied. 3 centuries ago, our world nearly destroyed itself. We came to a collective decision. Those of us who survived went underground, literally and figuratively. We withdrew from the galaxy to heal, to grow, to become something better than what we had been. We stopped transmitting because we had nothing to say, until we became something worth hearing. On the view screen, the image of Earth transformed. The surface peeled away in layers, revealing what lay beneath. Massive underground cities, glowing with soft light. Vertical farms that stretched for miles. Fusion reactors that powered entire continents. Neural networks that connected every human consciousness into a vast, collaborative whole. Transportation systems that moved through the Earth's crust at impossible speeds. Research facilities developing technologies that the galaxy had never conceived. And deep below, at the planet's core, something vast and incomprehensible. A structure of pure energy that seemed to pulse with life itself. We have achieved in 3 centuries what most species take millennia to accomplish, Yaman said. Isolation was our crucible. Survival was our teacher. And now we are ready to return to the galactic stage, but on our terms, not as the broken species you remember. The Council will never accept this, Vex said, finding his voice. You cannot simply reappear and demand recognition. We are not demanding anything, Yaman interrupted gently. We are stating facts. Earth is sovereign. Humanity has evolved. We have defensive capabilities that span our entire solar system. We can detect any ship that enters the Oort cloud. We can disable any technology that threatens us. And we have been preparing for contact like yours for decades. Yaman's expression softened slightly. Commander Vex, we understand your empire's needs. We understand the strategic value of our location. But colonization is not negotiation. If you wish to discuss trade routes, resource sharing, or mutual defense, these are conversations we can have. But they will be discussions between equals, not between conquerors and the conquered. Vex felt the weight of 3 centuries of assumptions crashing down. Every calculation, every strategic plan, every belief about humanity's extinction, all of it wrong. What do you want from us? Vex asked finally. Return to the Galactic Council, Yaman replied. Tell them that Earth has awakened. Tell them that humanity wishes to re-establish diplomatic relations, but that we will not tolerate trespass or assume dominion over our world. Tell them we offer knowledge, partnership, and friendship to those who approach with respect. The hologram flickered, and for a moment, Vex saw something else, a glimpse of the human civilization that had been, brave and flawed and passionate, and the civilization it had become, patient and powerful and watchful. We have been alone for a long time, Commander, Yaman said quietly. We do not wish to be alone anymore, but neither will we be subjugated. This is our message to the galaxy. Humanity has returned, and we are not the species you remember. 3 days later, Ambassador Velrith stood once more in the archival chamber of the Galactic Council. But this time, she was not alone. The entire council representatives from 47 species spanning the known galaxy had gathered to hear Commander Vex's report. The Krev commander stood before them, his posture rigid, but his voice steady as he recounted everything that had happened in the Sol system. His testimony was corroborated by sensor data, by the accounts of 300 soldiers, by the recordings his ships had managed to preserve. When he finished, silence filled the chamber. Finally, Counselor Tren of the Vexery spoke, his crystalline form chiming with each word. This is unprecedented. A species we believed extinct has not only survived, but surpassed us in numerous technologies. The implications are staggering. The question, Velrith said carefully, is how we respond. Do we treat humanity's return as a threat or as an opportunity? They disabled an entire Krev battle fleet without firing a shot. another counselor observed. That level of technological superiority is concerning. They also returned every soldier unharmed, Velrith countered. The old humanity might have retaliated with violence. This new humanity showed restraint. Vex spoke again, surprising himself with his own words. I have fought many species across many worlds. I know aggression when I see it. What I saw on Earth was not aggression. It was defense. They asked us to leave. They gave warnings. They used only the force necessary to ensure their sovereignty. If they had wanted to destroy us, I would not be standing here. The council chamber fell silent as they absorbed his words. Then we face a new reality, Counselor Tren said finally. Humanity has returned. The question now is, what kind of galaxy will they return to? One that welcomes them, or one that fears them? Velrith looked at the display where Earth status had hung for 347 years. The red warning symbol was gone, replaced by a new designation, Sol System Sovereign Territory Species Status, Active, Classification, Advanced Civilization Diplomatic Status, Pending, I believe, Velrith said quietly. That we are about to find out if we learned anything in the centuries humanity was gone. They went into the darkness alone. We left them there. Now they have emerged stronger than before. The question is not what they will do to us, but what we will do with the opportunity they are offering. In orbit around Earth, the last Krev ship prepared to jump to hyperspace. On the planet below, in the vast underground cities that humans now called home, millions of people watched the departure through their neural networks. Their collective consciousness contemplating the future. They had been silent for so long, listening while the galaxy forgot them. Now they had spoken, and the universe would never look at Earth or humanity the same way again. The patient children had returned from the shadows, and they were ready to remind the galaxy what it meant to be human. Asterisk.